to say thanks, everybody. According to Anneke, we've got a very good feedback to say people want to know more about this meeting. I think what she did is she did put some of the rules up, so I'm not going to bore you with those rules up front. I think that's important that we don't waste time. The other thing is just that we do record these meetings, and these meetings then, when they're recorded, they go to YouTube. And when you want to go and look at the meeting, you go onto YouTube and you type in ASPASA. You can type in PDS or TMM.
Jacob, we've lost you there.
Anneke?
There you go. I can hear you now.
It said there's something wrong. Somebody is trying to block my face. Okay.
No.
Not the Russians. Okay. Everybody back. Okay. Thanks. I was just cut off. It showed this side. So I think what we try and do is record these meetings, and people can use the recorded meetings at work. You could always take the meeting, put it on your laptop, and share it with colleagues in the boardroom or wherever, and or pass it on to others who say, "Oh, we don't know what ASPASA is doing." So you can just show that we're doing things. So yeah, don't want to waste too much time. There's somebody coming in. Morning, whoever it is. Great. Right. So the number's still climbing, and I'm just trying to buy a bit of time, but I won't waste much time. I think the main thing is, and because the meetings are recorded, it's very important to note that we are a non-competitive meeting. So there's no, and especially this type of subject matter, there was danger at one stage that we could be anti-competitive if you get the suppliers together and you just have a meeting with one or two suppliers of machines in TMM. So we're very wary about it. But if any of you feel that we are digressing or contravening the law, you just shout or put your hand up and say, guys, you're wrong. Because ASPASA is very adamant that we never want to be caught out by the Competition Commission. So that's very important. So that's a bit of background. I think I've spent too much time now. It's 6 minutes past according to mine, and I think the third thing that we've all got there. I don't know, just to maybe just ask if there's any share issues at this stage, and then we're going to get into the meat of the thing. So if anybody, sorry, somebody's talking there. Okay, they've gone off. Is there anybody who would like to share something on the PDS TMM issue at this stage? And then maybe our main speaker, our guest, can maybe just cover that when he's talking, because they clued up. If there's anybody, please, if you don't know how to put your hand on, just put your mic on and ask a question, or maybe share something with us. The thing that I would like to, if there's nobody else to share, is from our guest, is to maybe try and cover the RDMR officials that are forcing some of our members to do level 9s, put in stuff. So we must maybe just cover that. There's one hand there. That's Anthony.
Yeah, Nico, just a little something we've picked up on the environmental audits, and it fits in with PDS and your traffic management. There's a big need for these systems to be running effectively. If you remember, the principal inspector actually mentioned that one of the issues they're having is the source of dust source control, which is not happening in general. I'm generalizing now, but we found that a lot of traffic management systems, and that will include your PDS, are not where they should be. So just a bit of advice to the attendees, guys, get your systems in place. It's going to cover a lot of bases for you, not just on the DMR side, but also on the environmental side.
Okay, thanks. Right. Dushen will cover that. The thing I also want to ask that we maybe just look at while we're covering it. I was in a meeting the other day, and I'm not sure if all of you understand this problem, because I was quite shocked when I heard it, and I'm not sure if am I reading it right. So that people are putting in PDS in their buckies, and that bucky is then on the mine. It's got a PDS system in, and then it goes on to the national road, and it has to go to the shops. I don't know if you can switch it off, and I also don't know if Toyota or whoever's going to allow you to put all that stuff in their little Toyota. So maybe we should just check this, because it was discussed, and somebody, they couldn't give me an answer. So maybe that's something that our guest speaker. Dushen, I think I'm going to hand over to you, because I've wasted enough time. There's quite a lot of people in here, and very important role players in the industry. So I'm going to hand over to you, and then you carry on. And if there's any general discussions at the end or any questions, we'll do that, and then we finish. Thanks, Dushen. Thanks a lot for coming.
Thank you, Nico, and greetings to all our colleagues on the call. It's a really good turnout today. Just brief apologies from one of my colleagues, Nsiki Pukwana. He couldn't be available for this meeting, but my teammates, well, the head of the Learning Hub, Mr. Stanford Malachi, is in this call from the Mineral Council's Marsh Learning Hub, and I've also got my one of my team members from the Transport and Machinery team, Mr. Cholofelo Liki, is here with us. So Nico, I think I'll just, should I just kick off the presentation, or do you want to discuss a little bit around numbers, or shall we just go straight to the presentation?
I think carry on and go for it. Thanks, and welcome to your colleagues that are here.
Thank you very much. Okay, so I'm just going to share the presentation. Just a second, just getting my, please let me know when you can see the presentation in slide format.
It's there, but it's small. Can you maybe make it bigger?
Oh, okay.
It's there, but it's compressed. If I don't know how you make it bigger.
Let me try again. It's just.
Annika might be able to just. I don't know how it works.
Okay, one second.
I'm just saying. I don't know if that's the biggest. Might have been the biggest, but.
I think he had it in presentation mode, Nico, which seemed fine.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Okay. Let me just share again. There we go.
There we are. Okay.
Thank you very much. So essentially, we want to talk about the implementation of the trackless mobile machinery regulations and the development as well of collision prevention systems on a technology level as well as the other levels, which we've been quite busy with for the past few years. And these regulations really deal with the auto slowdown and stop items, which was suspended. And we're looking at, well, the DMRE is looking at promulgating at quite an early stage. So just to give you some information and to recap, you know, some of the key workings or the key skeleton framework of the project that we've broken down into different work packages. So there's been quite a substantial investment of 30 million Rand in accelerating the collision prevention system ecosystem readiness, as we call it. We call it a collision prevention system as per the Mine Health and Safety Act. You might be familiar with the old terminology such as the PDS and CAS, but now we're looking at using this terminology, CPS, which encompasses the complete collision prevention system. So I won't go too much into all of that, but this is typically what the work packages look like, and starts with coordinating, integrating, which is really a project management aspect of the holistic project. The first key work package is the operational readiness portion, which covers really the traffic management planning, data analysis of vehicle interactions, and effective change management. So the project really cuts across all readiness levels and doesn't just focus on technology as a silver bullet, but really focuses on a holistic approach. The next key thing is the technology, of course, which we're looking at. Well, we've been looking at legacy equipment, we've been looking at technology readiness criteria, the testing protocols that have currently been developed to a stage of maturity where we can actually, where it has actually been released to the industry. We've defined testing capability and capacity, and this also encompasses some of the test coordination work that we're busy with at this point. So there's numerous streams here, and we've also got a consultant on board, namely SECD, who've helped us develop technology requirements. Then there's the cross-cutting aspects, which relates to the quantified unintended consequences. So this would contain studies on how operators are affected by sudden braking and auto stopping and that sort of thing. Some guidance for CPS technology management implications, the Section 21 guidance, and then formal vendor alignment on legal liability that we're covering. That's a major stream of the project. We've also aligning ourselves and working with the international international entities, namely IMMERSE, the ICMM, and ISO. So this is to keep track of what's being done overseas, what's being done in the vehicle interaction programs overseas. Due to the regulatory nature of our environment, we are, of course, quite ahead in the project, but we certainly are keeping in line with what they are doing, and it's really a combined effort towards increasing safety for the people in our industry. So just moving on to the holistic risk phase action plan that has been instituted for this project. There's 3 phases to it, and that consists of the low-hanging fruit phase, where we focused on rail-bound equipment. In parallel with this, we're looking at root cause analytics for some of the incidents that have occurred and the common causes that actually result in incidents. TMM movement for surface and underground. And then for phase 2, we did a risk quantification, and as I mentioned, the operational readiness. We got an idea of the TMM population. We've stipulated mining processes and equipment types. So a lot of work has already been done in these spaces, together with phase 3 on technology management, which dealt a lot with the ecosystem readiness for industry-wide adoption and some of the cross-cutting matters that we mentioned in the previous slide. So taking you to our commitment to a collaborative journey. So due to the concerns from the DMRE and other stakeholders, and all the information gathered, the Minerals Council Board has approved the Holistic Risk Phase Plan, and we're looking at December 2023 as a target date for getting all the readiness aspects in line. So December 2025 was previously proposed as the date by which the CPS ecosystem must be ready for industry-wide adoption. But we're targeting December 2023. It's not an official date mandated as yet. There are still discussions, as you may know, with the MHSC and still some confirmations there from the DMRE as well. But CEO Zero Harm Forum, we're challenged to continue exploring all opportunities to accelerate readiness further. At this stage, collision prevention systems are really, even the level 9 systems, they have been implemented to some extent in some of the within some of the mining houses, but there are issues around some of the technical aspects. The operational readiness aspects have not been completed to some extent, and there needs to be maturity in those lines before you can implement the technology. So we're looking at all these streams to assist and facilitate these items. We're also collaborating with the DMRE, the unions, and other stakeholders to establish a high-level transport safety forum. And this is really to get everyone on board on the way we see the project going and the way we see the readiness of the system, of the ecosystem, and to also clarify on the importance of having this ecosystem ready prior to the regulations being promulgated. So we've looked at also collaboration risks with respect to competition. Collaboration is a very key thing for the project in terms of all the readiness aspects. But of course, we have to look at compliance with the Competition Act, and we've formulated a legal opinion, or rather our legal counsel have done this, together with competition experts, to ensure that we are in line with all the requirements, all the clauses, notably the 41A and 41B clauses that restrict horizontal practices to some extent, but there is leeway for collaboration. So we've put together this document. We've had the discussions with the OEM formations, namely CONMISA, the OEM Forum, and MEMSA. And there was a good appreciation of that work. The legal opinion has been formulated. It's going through just a bit more of a process to ensure that some of the guidelines have been encompassed properly. And this is almost finalized. So we're going to, the consensus on that was to actually just ensure that all aspects of the competition law are complied with without any leeway for non-compliance. And then on the international collaboration side, just some feedback. Through one of the vehicle interaction meetings with Immersed, there was mentioned to us in South Africa that there is some misalignment with regards to some of the technical aspects. We've had a meeting with Immersed directly with some of the key members, and we've aligned ourselves a bit better. We've concluded on a few things around reaction times and that sort of thing, and that was all sorted out. We are having follow-up engagements with the ICMM to have further discussions. And the last point there being the lead adopter mine. There are a few lead adopters for collision prevention systems. We've started the process with some of these key entities to ensure that we accelerate some of the important aspects of testing and some of the scopes of work that they themselves have developed to try and get to the end state for readiness. So sorry, I've really elaborated on the slide, but there's a lot more. I don't want to just bore you with too much of detail. Of course, you can ask me questions at the end of this, or even during the presentation. Please feel free to raise hands. Nico, I can't see hands, so if there are, just please let me know. Okay, so around the accelerated development framework, there's been a number of technical documents which is in line with technology readiness that were developed by SECDI and the University of Pretoria, who we've contracted to do this work. And we've been involved in going through all of the details and technical aspects of the documents to ensure that we have sound requirements. So just to give you a picture of the framework, this is typically what these documents contain. So we've started looking at the CMS, ICMM information. There was a gap analysis done to identify and understand all the gaps that the ICMM and Immersed have within their requirements from level 1 to 9. And through a process of regulatory analysis and general information, and of course the current TMM population, a set of user requirements were developed, together with functional and technical performance requirements for collision prevention systems. And all of these key requirements are fed through with some of the important technical aspects, so namely the electromagnetic interference, electromagnetic compatibility report, interoperability, zone functionality, reference to local and international standards. So quite a comprehensive methodology was taken to develop new requirements that encompasses all of the aspects for making sure that this collision prevention system is technically ready in every sense of the word. And this is really governed towards accelerating CPS product development and validation. So we are facilitating this process as the Minerals Council. I just want to take you to the next slide, which deals with our accelerated product development plan. The readiness criteria and integrated testing regime has been developed. The specific technology readiness levels. And the key thing is collaboration between the trackless mining machinery OEMs, the mines, the specialists, the CXD developers, and CPS product developers. In order for this to be successful and to meet the timeline before the regulations are lifted, we need this collaborative effort. And the only way to do that is to get everyone on board with the testing requirements, the new requirements, and the key technical compliance aspects in order to roll out to all the mine sites. I just want to go quickly over testing. Testing is a major drive for this year. We've started looking at all the aspects, but just to give you some context to what testing involves, there are numerous technology readiness levels. So TRL level 1 to 9. 1 to 3 is really on the actual collision avoidance device. So that's on the developer side that will have to be complied with. So I've just noted all the key TRL levels here for testing. TRL 4 is the proving ground test, where you'll have a basic CXD and TMM. There's the ISO 21815 communication protocol that needs to be checked for communication between the CXD and the TMM, and of course the braking response and that sort of thing. From there, there'll be a TRL 5 transition stage, and then you move to TRL 6 to look at integration of the actual device on the TMM and see how that performs. So there'll be numerous tests around the integration. And then the combined system is also needs to be placed in a representative environment to ensure that there's certain things like line of sight and boundaries, the ground conditions and that sort of thing that needs to be catered for, and that's for the advanced CXD. And then in an actual production environment, the collision prevention system needs to be tested. So an actual mining setup to ensure that there's compliance to all those aspects. So it's quite a comprehensive set of requirements. I'm just giving you the key things that we need to look at for the test approach. So where are we now with the testing? We have the user requirement spec. We have the functional requirements, we have the technical specs and the test procedures. All of these have been reviewed by the product suppliers and the OEMs. And I just want to give you some of the key comments that we received from the OEMs. We do not have CPS development plan for unintelligent machines, namely legacy equipment. The current installed components are not equipped, currently not validated to the ISO 21815-2 standard. It is the operator's responsibility to bring the machine back to a safe state, which is quite concerning, and this is regarding fail to safe. So some of these comments we certainly need to address with the OEMs and OTMs and have a discussion around this and get some consensus. And this is what we're aiming to do this week. And from the CXD suppliers, how do you differentiate between tailgating and overtaking? That's something that's still in the air for some of the suppliers. If there are two pedestrians in front of the vehicle at the same distance, or two vehicles equal distance away to the front and back, it will not be possible to prioritize only one. So we need to certainly address these problems. A lot of the new requirements, interaction scenarios, actually do deal with some of them, but we need to have this conversation. That's why we're holding this breakaway session now, this Friday, with the OEMs and OTMs, to look at some of their concerns or some of their key concerns and see how we can work around that. The current set of standards that were developed, the new requirements, the URS, the functional requirements, etc., have been appreciated as quite a high level in general. And the ICM and Immersed have also got a copy of it, and they also did respect the amount of information contained in the documents, in our documents. And yeah, so there was general appreciation for the work performed. So currently, in parallel with that work, we're also looking at accelerating the test plans, and some of the key initiatives have been to look at pilot test sites, and also looking at donations of test machines to initiate the test validation work. I actually want to use the opportunity now to also thank you, Nico, for pointing us in the right direction for the pilot test sites. And I want to also personally thank, I'm not sure if they're on the call, but Letitia van der Berg and Piet Ackerman, who've welcomed us at Glen Douglas mine. We've been through a visit there. Everything was really good in terms of testing and the site conditions. So that's a good viable option. I also want to thank Mr. Arthur Dindani from PPC Quarries for hosting us at that site. Mr. Jürgens Visser from Maseve Mine. We visited surface and underground, so there is options there as well for doing some tests. And then Mr. Trevor McAdam from Drift Super Sand, who's also given us a few options around testing. And Letitia is also from Glen Douglas secured some donation, a donation of a test machine. Thank you very much for your support and proactively helping us through this effort. With the pilot test mine, the idea there is to look at testing as much as we can, doing some validation work, and really kicking off the testing. So we're going to look at doing a comparative between the sites, and then seeing we still need to actually finalize on how we're going to execute on this test plan. So that we would be doing with the third-party verifier, namely the University of Pretoria. But of course, it is open as well to involve others if, we don't just stick to the one third party. Whoever is geared in this area would be, of course, allowed to participate and do testing work. We've also looked at acquiring the trackless mining machinery lists from the mines for the ones that require CPS, including legacy equipment. We've got a lot of these lists, and this will help us to understand and do some of the test planning work. We're looking at, of course, minimizing testing. So for certain combinations of machinery and CPS, we wouldn't have to repeat tests. It would just have to be done one time. There's a lot of testing involved, so we wouldn't want the huge cost for testing multiple times. We'd rather test one combination once. So that's the idea there, and that's also part of our collaborative drive. And then, of course, the last point on the slide is the test facility, namely Engineering 4. This is in line with the University of Pretoria, who are looking at developing, who have started the development of a test facility, which is not too far from the CSIR in Pretoria. There's a whole area there, a site, where they have started building offices. But specifically for this project, we're looking at the new interaction scenarios, and there's new roadways that need to be built to do some of this test work, because currently the Gerotech facility is not viable for testing. So this is a mission that we're doing in parallel with the testing efforts that we're currently doing, and we are looking at minimizing the number of tests at TRL 7. So essentially all of the testing, once this test facility is built, can be done here, and you'll have a centralized test facility that can encompass not just the TRL 4, but it can encompass TRL 7 testing. And you'll have realistic, it also has an underground mock-up stope. So there would be the leeway to do underground test work that you can't do in a production area where you would actually impede on operations and all of that. So this is a drive that we're focusing now on now as well. Okay, so that's the testing aspect. There's a lot more to the testing facility and all of that, but I'm not going to go into that detail for this presentation. I'm moving on to the skills readiness aspect. The IDM Business Academy has completed the study. The report was reviewed, and we're now firming up on conclusions and recommendations for ensuring that the South African mining industry is geared up for installation, repair, and maintenance of collision prevention systems. And this information will be issued very soon to the industry. So just going through some of the work done in this space on skills readiness. The IDM team have been involved with interviews, online questionnaires, and desktop research with a number of OTMs and OEMs and mining houses. So they've acquired quite a large amount of data along the lines of installation, repair, and maintenance. So this is typically some of the numbers, the number of interview requests, interviews completed. Some of the responses were not as expected, but they've gathered enough data to put together the knowledge transfer framework, which is which is what we wanted to achieve with this portion of the project. So some of the key findings from this study. The OTMs differed in both their reliance on IRM services, the frequencies of such services, as well as the qualifications required. In general, the skills required to install, maintain, and repair requires the skills of an artisan electrician, with qualifications ranging from grade 12 to electrical artisan level. In one of the instances, a mining house began the process of recruiting their own technicians. They insisted on an instrument mechanician so that they understand the interface between the different components. The training required to equip such technicians currently provided by OTMs, it varies from 1 week to 6 months. So this is quite a big gap. This is where we are looking at, of course, presenting the best recommendation to expeditiously, move the process to get people ready for implementation of CPS. So this is something we are working on, but this is typically what they found out. So some of the OTMs also separate the level of seniority to perform installation, repair, and maintenance at different levels. So level 1 is basic inspection and parts replacement. Level 2 is fault finding. Level 3 is installation, calibration, and analysis. So in terms of the mining houses, it is found that these resources require little change in terms of job descriptions, salary bands, and career paths. Given the large number of TMMs currently unequipped with CPS, reasonable timelines will need to be provided once legislation is enacted. So this sounds like the obvious, but this is certainly, there was a lot of data that was accumulated, and a lot of this detail is actually in the report. Based on the above, it appears that the South African industry is not currently equipped to ensure that all TMM or new or legacy is equipped with level 9 CPS devices within the 3 months stipulated by the amendments to the regulation. But we are obviously going to firm up on the recommendations to provide you with an accelerated skills readiness plan that's best suited to different operations. It's because of the complexity of the collision prevention systems that the timeline for training varies. So different OEM entities, OTMs, have different forms of training, and the timeline changes. So we'll have to streamline on the best way forward for that. So these are some of the implications for transitioning strategies. In terms of the mining houses, recruitment and management resources require little change in terms of job. I think I've mentioned this to some extent. The willingness of OTMs to transfer these skills is mixed, with many willing to cooperate, at least in part. And this, of course, leans on intellectual property issues and that sort of thing. Most of the OTMs and the mining houses agree that training and in some cases supervision will need to be retained by the OTMs, predominantly to the concerns around legal liability and reputational damage that may ensue as a result of their training potentially being implemented in a manner that does not meet the required standards. So some obvious concerns around the standard of training and IP and legal liability. I'm just looking at this 3-month window. Okay, so that's something we of course are going to improve on. The fulfillment of the IRM requirements and associated skills are likely to depend on a technology-based versus the IRM-based business model. So they've looked at different types of models, in-source versus outsourced models for training, and we'll obviously recommend on the best approach. Several important factors will need to be considered in the implementation of a skills transfer strategy by the mining houses, and these are outlined in the report. So just to give you a glimpse of the knowledge transfer framework that they looked at, which really encompasses all of the different things that need to be considered. So if you look at number 1 there, the knowledge and skills, they've looked at experience, qualifications, capability, and competence. And this is really a holistic guide to knowledge transfer. The second part is the organizational design, which consists of the job architecture, the levels and bands, the workforce planning, career pathing, reward and remuneration, and the last being management. Then the legal and regulatory aspects, which contain the legal liability, which we spoke about earlier, and employment contracts that need to be quite carefully drawn up. The work practices and processes. So looking at planned, unplanned, and ad hoc work, maintenance and installation practices, location of skills in the value chain, ways of working and working culture. Number 5, the upskilling, training and development. Make or buy training plans and matrices, accreditations and cross or multi-skilling. And then looking at the operations themselves, the installation outcomes, basic equipment repair, spares and replacement, equipment testing, TMM availability and reliability. So this is typically a slide that encompasses what they've developed for the knowledge transfer framework. And that really wraps up the presentation, Nico. Thank you, colleagues. I'm not sure if there's any questions or points for discussion.
Lucian, thanks a lot. I think the people must ask questions now. There's a lot of people that don't always understand the process, and I get some of the questions. So please, people, feel free to. You got the boffins here now. These guys do an excellent job. I mean, the Minerals Council has put a lot of money into this whole thing, and we don't want to, when the end of the day comes, that we get Section 54s. So please just not even ask a question, just maybe give us your view about this. There might be different views. Please use the opportunity. Stanford?
Thank you, Nico, and good morning, everyone on the call. Just as a matter of emphasis, I'm not sure, Dushen, if you are not able to share the slides on the TMM lists that we have received, just an overview of that, and also the slide around the donations, sorry, of spare machines.
Yes, on the TMM list side, I can just find that. In the meantime, I'll just show you the donations. Just a second. Cholo Fellow, can you possibly help me with the TMM lists?
Okay, Dishon, I'm just looking for it. I'm gonna share it with you now.
Thank you. Once I find the donations.
All right, there we go. Good morning, colleagues. Just wanna share this with you quickly. I'm sorry for my voice. I've got a little bit of a flu, so my voice might die at any time. But I think I just want to present here what we've got in front of us here is the list of machines that required to be donated as part of the integrated testing regime. Basically, sorry, I think there was a break in my transmission there. Can you still see the slide in front of you?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, no, great. Yeah, so as part of the integrated testing regime, there's machines that we require for testing purposes. These machines will be used for testing, for representative testing at TRL7, which is one of the testing readiness levels. And then we required 11 machines in total, as per the list that you can see in front of you there, split into surface and underground. So far, we've had 4 machines that have been pledged. We've got 1 front-end loader and 1 grader that has been pledged so far. And thanks to AfriMet for these donations. And then in terms of underground, we've had a pledge for 1 LHD, courtesy of Northern Boysendaal, and a personal transporter from Glencore Alloys. So far 4 machines have been pledged. So in terms of surface, what we are really in need of is rigid dump trucks and articulated dump trucks. These are in the region of about 18 to 30 tons. But if it's a 14 ton, if it's a 40 ton, it is still okay. And typically this will be machines that will be used, typically in your quarries and for junior miners as well. So there is quite a struggle in terms of getting these dump trucks. So colleagues, if you are in a position to pledge these machines, please let us know. We will post our contact details for you to come and engage with us bilaterally. And then in terms of donations of these machines can either be donated or given to us as part of the project, or they can be lent as part of ensuring that we get the ecosystem ready when the regulations are promulgated. All right, and then in terms of underground, we still need of 1 underground ADTs, which are normally used in your underground hard rock operations, and a telehandler or maniscopic that is also used underground. All right, so Dushani, I think that's it in terms of donation of those machines.
Thank you for that, Cholo. In terms of the TMM lists, we do have a consolidation. I just need to get a hold of the actual spreadsheet, but I think we've received probably around 70 to 80%. There's still some outstanding. I see there's a hand up. Sorry, Nico, just help me. ASPASA audit I see on the line.
I think that's Anthony. Anthony, you can go ahead.
Hi, Deshendra. It's just a quick question on this. When you ask for donations of, for example, an ADT, which is basically what most quarries use. Will that require the machine going off-site, or will the testing be done on-site?
Essentially, we would need it. We'll have to arrange for it to be at a specific site. So we visited the different pilot sites, and we have identified the few that I mentioned. You know, the Glen Douglas mine, PPC quarries, and the one at Drift Supersen and Masebe. So we'll just need to see which is most conducive for what we want to do with the testing, and we'll have to move the equipment to that specific site. Thanks for that, Anthony. Anything else around testing or any of the other aspects that we can support with? So along the side of, sorry, Cholo?
Sorry, Dushan, if I may just come in there with regards to the TMM lists. Yeah, this is very important, and we did send reminder emails to all the Mineral Council members for the submission of these lists. So this is basically your TMMs that would require CPS post the promulgation of the regulations. So in terms of areas on your mine which are of significant risk, even after you've instituted all your controls, that will still require CPS. These are the machines that you need to indicate to us that would need CPS. And I think so far, as you said, we have had a good response in terms of submissions. And I think in terms of your smaller miners or your quarries, I see we've received submissions from AfriMed, AfriSem. I see SK Crushers and RP Crushers as well. And obviously, some of these members have indicated that they will actually need no CPS to be installed on their machines, as they have done the traffic flow and risk analysis and instituted necessary controls to ensure that they've got a good traffic management on their side. But I think this is quite important, colleagues. If you have not submitted those lists, or if you have not seen the circular, please let us know urgently, as this was required actually before the end of January. Thanks, Dushan.
Thank you, Cholo. Yeah, this is critically important around TMM lists. In fact, we're trying on different platforms to get these lists. We've also had numerous COPAs and community of practices for adoption of the leading practices, where we're also pleading for these lists to be submitted. The lists also help us, and the data help a lot with sieving through and looking at or identifying the legacy equipment, which is quite a critical aspect of the project, because we need to look at the viability for upgrading this equipment, or even if it's feasible to do that. So the lists definitely help in that strategic execution, where we're looking at identifying the legacy equipment. We're going to have bilaterals, or look at having bilaterals with the OEMs to see what is viable. Some of this machinery is quite old, and it may not be feasible to upgrade, but we need to understand the numbers and the context for this type of equipment. And then, of course, for the test planning, you know, these lists really help with test planning. Sorry, Nico. Oh, okay, no problem. Any other questions or comments that anyone wants to make on the project? Any concerns?
Dushan, if I may just come in there, you mentioned something very important, the COPAs, or the Community of Practice Adoption Practices meetings. For those members that have adopted the traffic management leading practice, it is mandatory that you attend the COPAs. Fine, we know that the last COPAs were last held in 2019, and obviously COVID came along, and there was a lot of focus more on the TMM regulation project. So we did start with the COPAs last month. We had the COPAs on the 16th and 17th of Feb. We also had the last one on the 24th of February. Yeah, I must say there was a good representation from the members in the Northern Cape and Western Cape regions. However, Northwest and Limpopo were not well represented, as well as KZN North and KZN South. So please, colleagues, we request that in future, when we send out invitations for COPAs, if they can please be, if you can please honor the invitation and do attend as well. And in fact, in terms of the COPAs, there was a lot of presentations from those that have done the traffic flow and risk analysis properly. So it was a good platform actually for others to learn, because we actually found that a lot of adopters get stuck on that particular step of doing the traffic flow and risk analysis. And it's also a good platform as well, where we did share some of the information that was shared by Dushen this morning. So we will have our next COPAs in April. We will have them every quarter for the foreseeable future. So please, colleagues, please help us in attending these COPAs. Thanks, Dushen.
Thank you, Cholo. Stanford?
No, thanks, colleagues. May I suggest, if ever it will be possible and practical, that maybe if we could have a dedicated COPA for ASPASA, so that we can directly address the ASPASA members as a collective. I'm not too sure, Nico, if that is practical.
Sorry, Stanford, is it some people have to attend a quarry?
No, a COPA, a community of practice for adoption, just like Chulo was saying, for those mines or quarries that are adopting the traffic management leading practice in the ASPASA stable, if they could come together and share their experiences as that collective. So because the COPAs that he has been talking to are regionalized, they are provincially based, like the KZN South, KZN North, Northwest, Limpopo, Gauteng, Free State. So I was just saying, maybe because ASPASA it's already a collective that is well organized, maybe we can deal with that in a targeted manner.
I think we can. I think definitely we'll try that. What I was trying to ask, is it a Teams meeting or is it a physical go to a quarry and see or not? How do you handle it?
Well, so far it has been online, like a session like this, but the team can advise better if it could be face to face.
Okay, Stanford, you guys can talk to me. We'll set it up per province or maybe a central one anytime. Just let me know. We'll have people that will be very eager to do that. So yeah, definitely. Because we have our own problems or our own challenges, not problems, our own challenges. So when people talk about underground mines and big mines, sometimes ours differ. So with pleasure, we'll do that. You just tell us when and what.
Thank you for that, Nico. I think that's we can plan the COPA. I think it's a good platform for also assisting the industry and assisting this conglomerate. So it'll be a good opportunity to also share some of the leading practice ideals. It's also a good platform to share issues that you're currently experiencing on the mine. There's been some technical questions in previous COPAs where we've tried to assist. So I think there's a good opportunity there. So we will set that up with you. So yeah, thank you on that end. And then I'm not sure if there's any other concerns or comments. we also provide our contact details, so you can contact us personally as well, or email if you prefer to just voice out any concerns around this project or comments that you might want to contribute. Thank you, Nico.
Can I just ask one more question before we all go? Would it help if I send a circular around and ask people for specific questions so that I send it through to you, and then we start the meeting off the COPA with you answering some of those questions? Or will we only, because I'm nervous when people join these meetings, they don't talk, as we see today. So if I send you the questions up front, you could most probably try and answer them.
I think that's a great suggestion. I think let's do that. Sometimes, it takes time to actually, digest and also put together some thoughts. So if you issue that circular, it could give everyone the chance to, just reflect a bit and put their thoughts onto paper. So that would be a good preparatory for the ASPASA COPA that we would be preparing for. Thank you.
Thanks. If there's no more comments, no more questions, then I think we wait for the COPA and we'll get a date. You say in April, May, around there. We'll get a date and we'll slot it in. Thanks for all of those who've attended. Thanks for all of those. I think I see all the email addresses from the Mineral Council people are recorded on our system. So we've had them feed into the system. So thanks everybody. And otherwise, I think we close the meeting, and thanks for attending. And thanks for our guest speakers and for the Minerals Council. The Minerals